Hey y'all, IrixGuy here. Welcome back to another live show, and I'm going to start out with some action, man. And before I tell you the potentially exciting story, at least it was exciting for me, I'm going to remind everyone I've got the sound of the super chat right here. So if you haven't been a subscriber yet, subscribe, ring that bell, be notified whenever I post another video. And if you choose to super chat, I will make this sound of the super chat erupt. And if we get through $100 US of super chat during a single live show, I will break out the drum. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So true story, and obviously I'll keep the location and the individuals confidential. But I was coming back. Actually, I was between GO1. Welcome aboard, man. Welcome aboard, GO1. So I was between job sites, and actually, just a routine, going site A to site B, whatever. And I noticed something funny. So there was a motorcycle, and this motorcycle was kind of it was a 4-lane road, 2 on this side, 2 on the other, and this motorcycle was driving erratically. It was rapidly changing lanes. Although I don't know if they were under the influence or whatever, their driving was sloppy. So, something was going on. So I'm in the right lane. There's a left lane also, and that motorcycle's in the left lane. And then they go up in my lane to an SUV a few cars up from me. And what happens is that motorcycle pulls up beside the SUV, and they start cursing at the driver of the SUV through the window. And she's visibly frightened. This was at a red light. She starts to panic and then just guns it. And then this dude on the motorcycle is just right there beside this lady, following her. And then she gets really scared, takes off, going faster. Of course, he's on a motorcycle, so he's going to be able to outrun the SUV. So he keeps up with her. And then, I'm following at a safe distance because, something's up here. Somebody's in distress, and I gotta make sure the situation is taken care of. So I follow at a safe distance, making sure that it doesn't appear that I'm following them. So I follow these people for approximately a mile or so. Now, keep in mind that, the first thing I did was engage the local law enforcement in that area. And I just said, look, there's someone that seems to be, what was the word for it? Terrified. I think that's the word I use. They're terrified. Someone on a motorcycle is making that lady feel, extremely uncomfortable. And that was the initial part of the phone call to the police. And then I said, I'm not, obviously I'm at a safe distance. I can tell you where they are. I'm going to follow at a safe distance at a safe speed, and keep you abreast of of where the two subjects are. So that's what I did. I followed them. I guided the the law enforcement officers to the people. I have no idea what was going on. I don't care to know what was going on. But, the lady in the SUV was definitely in distress, and the person on the motorcycle, for whatever reason, he was making her feel extremely uncomfortable. So that was a very exciting and unexpected, I'm sure it wasn't excited for the people involved, but it was an exciting and unexpected adventure, between work sites. So, that's, it's not a good thing, but, anytime there's unexpected excitement, that makes what may otherwise just be a kind of boring and uneventful commute into something that becomes a story. And, that's why I'm sharing that story here on IrixGuy's Adventure Channel during IrixGuy's live show. We're already at episode 128 of the live show. So, I really appreciate your continued viewership, your subscriptions, your super chats, all the support that you've given. You've told your friends, you told your family, you told people you don't know, hey, y'all need to subscribe to IrixGuy's Adventure Channel. You know, how do we do that? Well, just go to youtube.com/IrixGuy and ring that bell icon, you know, and stay in tune with all the latest videos. I mean, that's all you got to do. That's some good tea. Yeah, so that was one of the adventures from today, and I've got a ton of adventures. Obviously, the Appalachian Trail. Got some videos filming there, backpacking throughout the course of several days. Going to be hiking in a week. I mean, I'll get over a few hundred miles. So there's going to be a lot of adventures there. Obviously going to be documenting those adventures with the GoPro Hero 9 Black and also the Sony a7R4. And I've got a 100 to 400 millimeter lens for the a7R4 that'll hopefully be able to capture some really good black bear activity, maybe some cougars, you know, maybe some bobcats, that sort of stuff. You know, who knows what we're going to capture on the cameras on the Appalachian Trail. So I'm excited about that. The other notable things, let's see, what's the other biggies here? Let's see. Yeah, will not have the drone on the Appalachian Trail, obviously, because that's disallowed. You know, I wish they were allowed in the national parks, but they're not, so I will not have the drone. Number one, there's no reason for me to have the drone with me. You know, I wouldn't fly it even if I had it. But number two, I don't want to have it. It's extra size, it's extra weight. And I mean, you know, multiple days on the Appalachian Trail, you got to have your food, you got to have your booze, you got to have something to drink around the campfire, you know. So, you know, I want to minimize the travel size and travel weight of my pack. I'm wearing a big Wilderness Guide backpack. Actually, is it 125 liter? I mean, it's insane. I mean, most of your backpackers, you're looking at what they call a big backpack for backpacking. Typically around 70 liters is considered big. So what I'm carrying is ridiculous. You know, it's a Wilderness Guide pack. You know, it's big enough if you needed to carry your own gear and gear for others, you could do that. Now, you know, I'm not going to have it really full. The thing I like about my pack is that it's waterproof. So, you know, I mean, it's rainproof. You don't want to swim with it. But that's nice because I've got the extra layer of water resistance. Obviously, all my camera equipment on the inside will be in dry bags because there will be stream crossings, some of which will come up, you know, above your belly button. So, you know, depending upon how much it rains, I mean, it could come, you know, it could come to your ankles, it could come to your knees, it could come to your crotch, it could come all the way above your belly button. So, you know, that's the possibility that, what's my trail name? Duh, IrixGuy. That's my trail name, man. Interesting you say that. Yeah. Anybody that's hiking, if you're not familiar, like Geo1 just said, what's your trail name? People that, you know, that hike the AT, the Appalachian Trail, and the PCT, the Pacific Coast Trail, people that hike and backpack, they have trail names. So, you know, a lot of people, it's not, you know, you go out on the trail. I mean, I've met special agents on the trail. I've met doctors. I've met lawyers. I've met bums. I've met, you know, just all different classes within the world. And the whole the premise of a trail name is that you can just be, you know, just some guy or some girl on the trail. It doesn't matter what you are in the business world. You know, everybody on the trail is just someone on the trail, and that's why you get a trail name, and that's pretty interesting. Mavic Mini 2, great, Brad, great question. Brad says, hey, thoughts on the Mavic Mini 2? Well, I definitely think, you know, based upon what I've heard, and again, I do not have any inside information. I'm like everybody else, but I do have contact with a lot of drone enthusiasts. So with that being the case, I think the Mavic Mini 2 is probably going to release soon. I would go as far as to speculate that we're probably going to see it before Christmas of 2020, before Christmas of this year. That would make sense. Be able to really get a new drone out there, be able to get a lot of people, hopping on the drone bandwagon at a more affordable, more easy to enter price point than the upcoming Mavic 3, which I speculate will be Q1, the first quarter of 2021. So, as far as specs for the Mavic Mini 2, I'm expecting 4K. There's no reason they can't give us 4K in the Mavic Mini 2. They gave us 2.7K in the Mavic Mini, which was nice, but it's not 4K. So I think, a Mavic Mini with a better camera. I had no complaints about the battery life or the range with the original Mavic Mini. I think they've nailed that. Obviously, we'll continue to have USB recharging capability. That's huge. Being able to recharge your drone in the field is a game changer. So I think the controller, and I'm hoping they go with a controller that's like the Mavic Air 2's controller, because that, putting your smartphone on the top is a radically improved design, in my opinion. So is there anything, Brad, as far as what you've heard or what you may speculate, what are your thoughts about the Mavic Air 2? When do you think it's going to release? What do you think the features are going to be? What would you like to see, and what do you think it's probably going to have? See, and I'm popping up something else here too while Brad tells us his thoughts regarding Mavic Mini 2. And let's see. Oh, yeah. So not just Brad's thoughts. Does anyone else have any thoughts regarding the Mavic Mini 2? Surely there's something you've heard. Surely there's someone hey, do you think the Mavic Mini 2 is fluff? You think it's not going to happen? Surely DJI hasn't thrown in the towel for the Mavic Mini series. I think the Mavic Mini, with some tweaks and still keeping the price point and the travel size and the travel weight super low, I think that the Mavic Mini 2 and the Mavic Mini future versions of that has a lot of opportunity for growth. I think there's tons of there's a huge market that that the Mavic Mini appeals to. People that want a drone that's so small and so lightweight that it may not be subject to all the regulations. Geo1 says, could they give it OcuSync? That's a good question. How might that affect the size and the weight of the Mavic Mini? And also, how might that affect the price? Are they able to go in and keep it under that weight? That was one of the selling points of the Mavic Mini, is that in a lot of countries, that because of the weight, that it may not be subject to as many of the regulations. So, could they add the OcuSync and, keep the price down and also keep the weight and size down? Because I think that if the Mavic Mini 2 exceeded that weight, that, the registration weight or whatever, if it exceeded that, I think that could gimp their sales, because there's a large camp of people that have probably hopped on the Mavic Mini bandwagon because they feel that it's still a drone and you still got to, adhere to all the regulations in your country. But, there's a lot of people that may have bought the Mavic Mini, the original Mavic Mini, because they felt that it may not be subject to as many requirements as the heavier and larger drones. And it may not be as scrutinized by onlookers. I mean, if you live in an area, or you're flying in a safe and responsible area where you got a lot of anti-drone people, people that hate drones and people that heckle the drone pilot. Even though the drone pilot is safe and responsible, and even though the drone pilot is flying in a safe and responsible location, those people that just want to create conflict or just want to be rude and try to make themselves seem better than the drone pilot. I mean, there's some mean and nasty and vicious people in this world. And I've run into a few of them when I've been flying. One of them was that dude in the field, and I've told this story before, but the guy that, he kept looking, and then, I knew he was up to something, and then that's the guy that approached me and said, what are you doing in my field? I said, sir, this is your field? He said, and he backpedaled, and I said, yeah, you're right. That's not your field. This is a community field. Anybody is entitled to use this field. And that made that guy so mad. and he walked off fuming, and then I knew what was coming next, and sure enough, a few minutes later, the cops pull up, and they park, and they're talking to some guy that's playing golf, and they're like, hey, man, you got to move your vehicle off of the field. And then the officer starts walking to me, and he just starts talking about drones, and, he wanted to see it. He was cool with it. He said, well, what do you – he didn't even ask what I was doing. I mean, obviously I was in a field flying a drone, but he was concerned that I had my truck in the field. He said, we don't want to ruin the grass or whatever. I said, that's fine. I said, I'll move the truck off of the field, but that's all he said to me. And then he went his way, and I moved the truck, and I went back in the field and flew my drone. And the guy that came out and was being a jerk about me flying my drone, he never said anything else because he was put to shame, man. But yeah, the reason I told that story again is that, a smaller, lighter, and less intimidating looking drone. No drones look intimidating to me, but you got to admit, if you got something small and toy looking versus something larger, that larger drone is inevitably going to capture the attention, whether it be positive and or negative, of more people just because of the size and the appearance of the drone. So, having a smaller and lighter drone like the Mavic Mini 2, it brings us advantages to the table. Obviously you got to be safe and responsible and adhere to whatever guidelines may exist in your country. But if you're out there just having a good time, you're following all the rules, and all these haters come by and they say, they're trying to get on to you for flying a drone, so be it. They may not be as inclined to create that negativity if the drone looks like a toy. Brad says 4K, and Brad's talking about the Mavic Mini 2. Brad says 4K camera for sure. I think it'll release before Black Friday. Amen to that. Perfect time to release. Probably early November. 249 gram weight limit is key. Without a doubt, man, they're going to lose a ton of buyers if they go over that threshold. Anything else is up for question. I won't get it because I'm saving for Mavic 3. I hear you, man. I think Mavic 3 is going to be the next big kahuna. Now, with that said, I will definitely get the Mavic Mini 2 because I want everybody on this YouTube channel to be able to see it out in the field. I want to, preach the positive aspects, the negative aspects, put out those drone videos of the Mavic Mini 2 as soon as I get my paws on the Mavic Mini 2 and, just share the real Mavic Mini 2 experience. None of this sugar-coated stuff, none of this pre-release stuff, none of these doctored up videos where everything looks perfect. Just take that Mavic Mini 2 out in the field and show you what it does. No sugar-coating. So I'm excited, man. But I think you're right. I think the Mavic 3 is going to be the next serious drone. Speaking of that, and I don't know if y'all have heard this, but, I've hinted at it for many years, and I've heard some pretty solid suggestions that the Inspire may be actually discontinued. So I don't know if y'all have heard that, if you've heard that, that there's going to be no Inspire 3, or if that's just all fluff. But Brad says, by all means, I want every drone possible, but I got to cut spending when I can. Dude, without a doubt. And again, with me, excuse me, if it wasn't for this YouTube channel, I wouldn't be doing all of these drones because let's just say, okay, let's step back. Let's say that let's say I wasn't a YouTube drone channel. Let's just say I was some dude that wanted to go out and have some fun. Or maybe I'm some dude that, has a drone business and wants to go out and capture the best content possible. If I could only have a one and done, the drone that I would have today, just a one and done, I'm going to go with the Mavic Air 2. And you're probably saying, well, why would you go with the Mavic Air 2 when the Mavic 2 Pro has a 1-inch sensor camera? Well, I have gotten, with my videos, consistently excellent video footage, 4K, with the Mavic Air 2. Autofocus has been dead on. Low light is decent. the Mavic 2 Pro with the 1-inch sensor, just because of the nature of the 1-inch sensor, Mavic 2 Pro is going to perform better in low light situations. You got a sunset, you're going through a forest and it's really shady in there. You're going to get, you're going to get better performance low light with the Mavic 2 Pro. With that said, if I only could have one drone today, if I wasn't the drone YouTube channel doing all these drone videos, the one drone that I would have today would be the Mavic Air 2. But with your forward-looking statement of the Mavic 3, and again, this is speculation, but I have a feeling that the Mavic 3 is going to be the next kill-all drones, just because it's going to take everything, all the lessons learned from the Mavic 2 Pro, all the lessons learned from the Mavic Air 2, and make something great again. I think that's what's going to happen. Brad says, I think the Phantom can become the Inspire line. No doubt. Phantom's big enough. Phantom could be configured to have, modular camera option. The Phantom is plenty big and plenty strong to, carry an interchangeable lens camera. So, yeah, I don't think there's any need. There's not a business need and definitely not a hobbyist need for the Inspire line, in my opinion. Jake says, hi, I'm a little late, but hey, just started. Dude, Jake, I was telling a story, man. I got into a situation. I was going between job sites and got into a situation. So I'll rehash the story because you weren't here for that. So I'm in my vehicle. I'm driving. I'm not driving now, but I was driving then. And I'm in my vehicle. And I noticed this motorcycle. This is a 4-lane road. 2 lanes going this way, 2 lanes going the other way. And this motorcycle comes up to the left. I'm in the right lane. Motorcycle comes up. And he's kind of driving erratically. And he's kind of swerving. I don't know if he was high or drunk, but his behavior on the motorcycle suggested something was up. Soon enough, I figured out what was going on. I'm in the right lane. He's in the left lane. He kind of comes by me, and there's an SUV a few cars in front of me. He pulls up beside that SUV, gets right up beside the driver's side window, and you could tell that the driver of the SUV was in a state of distress because they spun out of there, and then the motorcycle chased them. I continued to follow at a safe distance. Obviously, it's not my job to try to, well, number one, I don't want to get involved because, you never know. I mean, these people could have, guns and all kinds of stuff. And I didn't have, when I'm going between job sites, I seldom have any sort of self-defense. So with that being the case, I called the police and I'm just like, look, I said, I'm following at a safe distance. Wanted to let you know, what I observed at a red light. I said, there's a lady in distress, motorcycle chasing them. So, I continued to follow for a few miles and, at a safe distance because I didn't want to seem like I was following these people. The roads I was going on, it was very natural for me to be taking the same route. So it wasn't obvious that I was following them. So anyway, relayed all that information to the law enforcement, and I'm assuming they took care of it, but it was bad. I mean, this lady, the driving became so erratic that she was driving in the wrong lane, almost hitting cars head on, and that motorcycle just falling right beside her. And I didn't notice any sort of weapon or firearm that the motorcyclist had, but it was pretty scary, man. Yeah, and you know what, Jake made a good point. A road rage incident by the sound of it. You're very right. I mean, that it could have been a situation where down the road before I became part of the picture that maybe this motorcycle had been cut off by the SUV, and that's highly possible. So, yeah, that's a good thought, and that's highly possible. Brad says if they double the cost of the Mavic Air 2 to $1,600 and of Mavic 3, if you can add $800 more worth of tech into the Mavic Air 2, the Mavic 3 will be insane. Very true. And Brad says, if they double the cost of the Mavic Air 2 to $1,600, cost of Mavic 3 if you can add $800 more dollars. Oh, the same comment. Yeah, Jake says she must have did something he didn't like. Very true. Very, very possible. Looking at the people, I think the perceived age difference was he was significantly older than her. So I think I didn't look at it. It's always interesting when you encounter some sort of conflict like that in the wild, and you wonder what happened. And you made a good point, and I think your point is probably spot on. I was almost thinking that I had another theory, and your theory makes more sense. But I had another theory. Maybe it was like some sort of like dating site meetup or whatever, and dude meets this girl out or whatever, and it was obvious they weren't a match, and then he started following her or something. I don't know, whatever. I mean, she was visibly, just like freaked out. And that's the only reason I followed at a safe distance, because I wanted to make sure, I'm not a law enforcement officer. So I wanted to make sure that number one, they were aware of what was going on. Number two, that they had the tag of both the motorcycle and the SUV, a description of both, what they were wearing, what the motorcyclist was wearing, the description of the SUV, the color, and again, the license plate of each. And, it was important they had all the information, the direction they were heading. And I won't mention where this was, but it was a situation where it went through a variety of different cities, about 2 different cities. So the police from one jurisdiction had to switch over to the other jurisdiction. So it was pretty interesting. And Jake says, I was just watching a video on the Golden Gate Bridge foghorns. Have you ever been to San Francisco and heard the Golden Gate Bridge foghorn before? If you haven't, there's a lot of videos on them. I'll have to check that out, man. I've never been to San Francisco. The only time I've been to California is a couple times, and I landed in LAX. And one time we almost didn't make it to LAX. We started landing. There was a helicopter on the runway. So the jet we're in takes back off, goes back out over the ocean. And when it goes back out of the ocean, it's like they really reduced their thrust. And it almost sounded like we were starting to fall and that the engines weren't running. It scared me to death. Those are the only 2 times I've been to California. One time where we almost hit the helicopter on the runway at LAX. And then the other time was actually a bad experience as well. So we landed in LAX. And, everything was hunky-dory. Landed in LAX, switched planes, got on the other plane for Maui, took off. It was I'm not going to mention the airline. I don't want to give them a bad reputation, but it was an MD-80, one of those older style jets that had the little jet back there on the rear, by the fin or whatever. And going from LAX to Maui, and a few minutes into the flight, things start to get stuffy and hot. And then it started to get really stuffy and hot. And then it started to get almost unbearably stuffy and hot to where it was hard to breathe. You knew things were bad when they say, okay, everybody can stand up and, we're going to serve free drinks. So not only were they serving free drinks, which was cool, but they were letting people congregate towards the rear of the airplane where the drinks were being served. So pretty much we just got wasted on the flight. It was hot. It was sweaty. It was hard to breathe. It was not a memorable experience. So my only 2 memories of California, number one, the landing at LAX where we almost landed on a helicopter, and then trip number 2, when we departed LAX on another trip for Maui, where it was hot and you could barely breathe on the plane, but we got open bar for free. So Brad says, ever fly out of John Wayne in Orange County? I never have, man, but I bet there's some multi-millionaires out there that have some jets, some PJs, private jets, man. Have you flown out of there? And how many private jets did you see? Jake says, the west horn sounds like a ship horn and is quite loud. The east horn sounds twice and is dual-toned and is quieter because it faces the other way, but you definitely hear the west horn. And that's, you're talking about the obviously the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco in California, in the United States of America. And Jake says, sounds like the AC failed in flight and the helicopter had violated a protocol by not giving way to the bigger plane. Yeah, man, I don't know. It was, whatever happened, it was freaky. And the bad thing is that that flight with the helicopter on the runway, that was a sober flight. Didn't have anything to drink. So yeah, I mean that goes down. That's that was scary. I hate to fly. And the only way I'll fly is that I'll have I've got what I call my pre-flight checklist. And basically my pre-flight checklist is, and this isn't flying drones, this is talking about being a passenger on a plane. My pre-flight checklist for being an airplane passenger is, number 1, do I have ice? Okay. Number 2, do I have Jägermeister? Okay. Number 3, did I place that Jägermeister in the ice at least for, 4 or 5 hours before the flight? Okay. So that's my pre-flight checklist, part 1. Part 2 is before heading to the flight, you got to make sure you drink that Jaeger. So, I take a few shots of the Jägermeister. It's got to be, ice cold. Because most time when you're flying, you're departing from a hotel room and you got that little ice bucket that the people that stay there before probably threw up in. But you got that, and hopefully you got the little ice bucket insert, the little small garbage bag, put your ice in there. So that's what I'll do. I'll put my ice in there. I'll put my Jägermeister in there, put the lid on the top so that Jägermeister gets ice cold. And, I can take a few shots at Jägermeister and get on the plane and fly and be a passenger on an airplane like a boss. So, it's not, I hate to fly. And the only way I can tolerate is if I got Jägermeister. Brad says, flying out of John Wayne in Orange County, California, due to flying over high-value neighborhoods, the airlines have to shut off engines briefly once you're like 5 minutes after takeoff. That's what it was, man. I swear they shut that engine off. And I'm like, this isn't right. Because number 1, we almost hit the helicopter. And then number 2, we're heading out over the ocean, the engine's turning off. Those people, man, they got too expensive. Their houses are too expensive. You got an expensive house if you can tell the airline to shut their engines off. That's man, I learned something new, man. That's nuts. It's like, well, we're sorry, we don't want you to interrupt our polo match in our back lawn. So you got to turn your airplane's engine off. I bet they don't turn their airplane's engines off. Jake says, I got to get up close, look one time on the West Horn, which deployed as fog rolled through San Francisco Bay that day, so I got to see how they get them started up. Very cool, man. So let me ask you this. Jake, you seem to have an obsession with foghorns, which is cool. So how did you develop your foghorn obsession? How did you develop that? And then Brad says, flight attendants have to announce it due to passenger concerns. The engines have to be shut off due to noise ordinances. Okay. And it's interesting you say that because the flight attendants on our flight said nothing. But this was back in, the sweaty flight with no air and free booze. That was in 2009. So the flight where they cut the engines off and we almost hit the helicopter, that would have been about 2002. So it was about a year. Yeah, it was about a year after 9/11 tragedy. So you would have thought that they would have announced that then. I mean, given what had happened, about a year prior. I mean, that's crazy. Brad says John Wayne and LAX are different airports, maybe different. And Jake says they wouldn't shut them right off, more likely roll them back to idle. Yeah, I just, I don't know, man. Something about voluntarily turning an airplane's engine off in flight is just kind of, it concerns me a little bit. I mean, I'm not a pilot. Well, I am a pilot. I'm a drone pilot. But, a commercial or private aircraft, a PJ, a private jet, I just don't, I don't understand. I mean, I don't care whose house it is down below. If you can't deal with the noise of a jet, you got a problem. Deal with it. And then Jake says, well, I'm not just into foghorns, also trucks, cars, buses, trains, ships, planes, military, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and history and cats and other animals. That's a well-rounded individual. And Brad says, correct, Jake. Correctu mandu. Okay, let's speak in Chinese. Hold on. I am going to say something. Let's see what we're going to say here. I'm going to talk about drones in Chinese. I'm going to talk about the Mavic Air 2 in Chinese. And I want y'all to tell me if you know what I'm saying. Oh, not the Mavic Air 2, the Mavic Mini 2. Let's see. Let's see if I can, if my Chinese is still good here. Okay, here we go. I'm talking about the Mavic Mini 2. Rolling away, Mavic Mini 2, Jean Plebler, Bob, Forza, Zengde, Ni, Zinme Khan. So what I said in Chinese was, I think that the Mavic Mini 2 will have a 4K camera. What do you think? So again, well, we know Mavic Mini 2, Jean Plebler, 4K, Angzin, Ni, Zinme Khan. Okay, so that's asking Mavic Mini 2 questions in Chinese. Chinese is a very difficult language to learn, by the way. So if you can become more proficient with Chinese, it's very cool. Actually, I think, out of all the languages in the world, obviously English is important, but I think that, I don't know, it almost makes you wonder if knowing Spanish is more important than Chinese, because, I mean, the thing with the Chinese language is that China is such a powerhouse now as far as the world economy is concerned. So, I'm almost wondering that if Chinese is more significant than, it used to be, at least back in the 80s, it seemed that, knowing Spanish as a secondary language was very important. I don't know. But Jake says, but my interest in foghorns was in 2006 when I heard the main island compressed air dual tone foghorn sound in British Columbia. I'm learning it, but I'm not good at translating yet. Learning Chinese, but not fluent yet. I have a Chinese buddy who lives in Shanghai. Shanghai. I've got I know somebody that lives in Shanghai as well. Very, very cool city. Very cool city. What's interesting about Shanghai is that, especially for Americans, Americans that run, international companies, I mean, they're over there. I mean, you go over there, you run into so many, fellow American business people. So it's kind of like, even though you're in another country, I mean, it's kind of like you got your little miniature, your miniature American circles over there, which is pretty cool. Jake says, she's been teaching slowly but quickly. Hey, slow and steady wins the race, man. Slow and steady wins the race. First show. Yep, Mavic Mini 2, man. Brad, I'm excited about that. I'm excited to, if Mavic Mini 2 does release this year as expected, and I think you're spot on, before Black Friday. If it does release as expected and I get my paws on it ASAP, I'm so excited to take it out, unbox it, review it, and hopefully entertain all the viewers until Mavic 3 comes out in Q1 of 2021. So I know you're holding out for Mavic 3, which is, dude, I'd be, if it wasn't for this YouTube thing, I would be holding out for Mavic 3 as well. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Well, I got something on my screen. It's a bug, man. It's a bug. Whoa. Speaking of that, what do y'all think? I'm kind of on the fence. I've never been a big iPad guy, but I'm considering picking up the iPad Air just because it's, it looks cool. Being able to use it with the Apple Pencil to take notes. I think that's kind of a cool use case for the iPad Air. And it's not as big as the iPad Pro. It's not as expensive as the iPad Pro. Still seems to have a really good display. And it's got USB-C. USB-C is in Charlie. So it looks pretty cool. Jake says, at the moment, she's teaching me how to write in Chinese, both Mandarin and Cantonese dialects. Cool, man. Do you find the Cantonese to be more complicated, or do you find the Mandarin to be more difficult? Which of the two is easiest for you? Mandarin and Cantonese. Cantonese. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Jake says, as we think writing in Chinese is a good start, then we will start with her saying something, then I say it. Oh, very cool. So just kind of, yeah. I had one of my best friends at university. He was from Paraguay, South America, and his primary language obviously was Spanish because he was from Paraguay, and he told me he spoke very good English, but there were certain words. It was really funny. Like instead of wilderness, he would say wilderness, and there were a few words that he just didn't quite grasp, but he learned his fluent English. I mean, he spoke extremely excellent English. He learned to speak English fluently by watching TV shows. So he watched a lot of mafia shows. He watched all of this, and he said that, by being able to watch a show and relate, the words that were coming out of the actors' mouths, to be able to take that and, and decipher, what it meant. He said, that enabled him to more quickly understand how to speak English, but also how to understand people that are speaking English. And obviously, having a Southern accent, that threw another wrench in his direction because, English is his second language, and then he's having to decipher a Southern accent on top of that. So he was a cool dude, man. He went off to create, he's created and sold several multi-million-dollar companies. And that was our thing. We would always just go out and just drank a ton of booze in the bars and talk about business and, how we're going to, make it big in the future. He ended up marrying this, so I had an ex-fiance. Whew, that was a bad situation. So I had an ex-fiance while things were good. He ended up meeting her best friend, and they ended up getting married. So he's married to the best friend of my ex-fiance that despises me, and I despise her as well. So funny how things happen, man. It's funny. So, yeah, but yeah, knowing more than one language is super convenient in today's world. I mean, you need to know not just how to understand, but how to speak. And you don't have to be super fluent, but just so you're able to have a working capacity. That's so important, man. Being able to do business with people from other countries that speak different languages. Jake says, I think the Mandarin is going to be easy, but the Cantonese dialect, my buddy said, that's going to be a bit more difficult for me, but she will help me as she speaks in the Cantonese dialect of Chinese. Very cool. Yeah, Chinese is a very, very cool language. I love it. Let's see, what do we have here? What is this? What is this? Oh, let's see what we got here. Aha, there we go. Jake says, speaking of my Yu-Gi-Oh card interest, I have over 10,000 cards collected from 2010 till now. That's a lot of cards, man. You are balling with those cards. You got a whole stack of 10,000. I'm going to have to look that up. A Yu-Go-y card. Yu-Go card. Yu-Go or Yu-Go-y? Yu-Ga? Interesto. I'm going to say something in German. Let's see. What am I going to say in German? Let's see how this comes across. Let's see. Das ist sehr interessant. That is very interesting. Das ist sehr interessant. That is very interesting. Did you ever collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards when you were a kid, IrixGuy? I collected baseball cards. And actually the best card I ever had, it was a Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron. And the back of the card was ripped off because it had been saved in a book. Had that card and the other cards been in mint condition, they would have been worth thousands of dollars. But anyway, it was cool to me. It looked good on the front. It looked good in my baseball card collection. He said it's pronounced Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh or Yu-Gi-Oh? Yu-Gi-Oh. So, yeah, but that card, when I was playing T-ball or minor league baseball, I had a teammate come over looking through the cards. Curiously enough, the next day I was looking through my baseball cards, and that card was missing. To this day, I see that individual out. They say hi, I say hi. But to this day, I remember that's the dude that stole my Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron card. And, dude, I'll never forget about it. Makes me so mad. Not that the card was worth anything, but, if you want to irritate me, lie to me or steal from me, and, I never forgive that kind of stuff. Jake says, it's a Japanese card game. I remember Magic the Gathering. I never got into it, but I'll have to check that out, man. Japanese, I have not. Honestly, that's the first time I've heard of it. So that is pretty cool. Yu-Gi-Oh. So it's pronounced Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Very, very cool. Got your Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Let's see. Well, guys, I'm going to got a few things I'm going to pump out here. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate the excellent conversation. We're going to do another live show very soon. I just wanted to hop on and appreciate y'all did as well. So stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. YouTube.com/IrixGuy. and ring that bell icon to be notified whenever I post another video. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, IrixGuy here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you.